Ou dink die kusse is broken. Noti's hard of stil whisper aan Lucille's boeverlingers. Die koesteen is arehou brave en nou getoefase wat kom is next.
Layla, now a half-human, half-serpent being, silently wiped away her tears of despair. Every slither in her unfamiliar body felt heavy, as if her soul was being dragged down by the weight of the form she couldn't yet accept. Before her, Jum, the massive serpent who had confessed to being one of Elijah's former wives, led the way through the dark forest. The dense canopy obscured the moonlight, leaving only faint glimmers that heightened the eerie atmosphere. The sounds of the nocturnal forest echoed around them, the rustle of leaves, the drone of insects, and Jum's soft hissing. "We're almost there," Jum whispered, her voice low and weary. "Brace yourself. What you're about to see won't be easy." Finally, the thick forest opened up to reveal a clearing covered in dry leaves. Layla stopped, her eyes widening in shock as she saw 5 other giant serpents before her, each as massive and intimidating as Jum. Their glowing red eyes reflected the dim moonlight, filled not just with ferocity but also with a deep, unrelenting sorrow and resentment. The snakes lay motionless, as if the weight of the curse had drained them of the will to fight. As Layla and Jum slithered closer, the air shifted. The other serpents hissed softly, their gazes wary and distrustful of Layla. "Don't be afraid," Jum said, her voice echoing in the stillness. "We have another companion now." Layla felt anxiety rise in her chest, but she forced herself to remain calm. She knew she had no other choice. Gradually, the other serpents lowered themselves, their blazing eyes softening. One serpent, with shimmering black scales as dark as coal, was the first to speak. Her voice was deep, gentle, yet heavy with sorrow. "Who is she, Jum?" the serpent asked, her gaze scanning Layla with a mix of curiosity and empathy. "This is Layla," Jum replied, "one of Elijah's newest brides, and like us, she has been cursed by Lucille." Jum's words broke the forest's silence, leaving the space filled with soft hisses from the other serpents. A serpent with scales as white as snow slithered forward, her eyes full of pity. "Welcome, Layla," she said, her voice soft but pained. "I am Seraphina. I too was once a beautiful bride, believing I'd live a happy life with Elijah. But then She didn't need to finish her sentence. Layla understood the grim truth behind those words. One by one, the serpents began introducing themselves and sharing their stories. "Lucille brought us to this forest on our wedding night," another serpent, with pale yellow eyes, recounted. "She performed a dark ritual, and before we could comprehend what was happening, we were transformed into this." "She's a cruel witch," Seraphina added. "She claims she does this to protect her family, but the truth is, it's to extend her life and amplify her dark powers. Every soul she curses only makes her stronger." Layla listened quietly to their tales, her heart aching for these women. She realized that they too had once hoped, dreamed and loved, only to have it all destroyed by the same person. "We've been here for too long, Layla," Seraphina said, her golden eyes glinting. "Every passing day, we lose more of the humanity left within us. If we don't act soon, we'll be trapped in this form forever." "I won't let that happen," Layla said, her voice trembling but determined. "We have to do something. There must be a way to break this curse." Jum nodded, a rare glimmer of hope in her eyes. "I've thought the same, but we need help from the outside. Without it, we can't escape this forest." "From the outside?" Layla asked, her eyes widening. "Yes," Seraphina replied. "We need someone who knows ancient magic, someone capable of standing against Lucille. But no one dares to enter this forest to help us." Layla fell silent, thinking of her friends back in the village, Chloe and Tasha. Did they still think of her? Would they have the courage to come and help her? Layla resolved not to give up. Despite the fear weighing on her, she knew she couldn't let herself or these women remain trapped in darkness forever. "We have to try," she said, her eyes blazing with determination. I'll find a way to contact my friends. They will help us." Jum and the others looked at her, their eyes glinting with fragile hope. But that hope felt as delicate as a flickering flame in a storm, ready to be extinguished at any moment. "Layla," Jum said, her voice lower. "If you fail, we'll lose everything." Layla nodded, feeling the heavy burden on her shoulders. "I won't fail," she said, though even she wasn't sure she could keep that promise. In the darkness of the forest, amid curses and despair, Layla and the cursed women began to plan their escape, seeking freedom and humanity. But little did they know, Lucille was watching from afar, ready to do whatever it took to protect her power. The savannah sky was bathed in a pale golden sunset, but Chloe and Tasha's hearts were filled with worry. It had been weeks since Layla's wedding to Elijah, and her strange absence had become increasingly alarming. Though their last parting was marked by angry words, their love for their best friend remained unwavering, incapable of fading. Tasha slammed the table, her eyes glinting with determination. "We can't sit around any longer. Layla hasn't been to the market, the spring, or even the village church. Something is definitely wrong." "Exactly," Chloe agreed, her voice heavy. "Even if she was angry with us, we're still her friends. If something has happened, we have to do something." Resolving to take action, Chloe and Tasha set out toward Elijah's mansion. The red dirt road leading to the house grew colder with every step, flanked by dark trees that seemed to hide secrets they didn't want revealed. The mansion emerged, larger and more foreboding than they remembered. Its heavy wooden door and foggy windows resembled watchful eyes observing them from the shadows. As they ascended the steps, the door suddenly creaked open, revealing Lucille. Though she smiled, it held no warmth. Her piercing eyes bore into Chloe and Tasha, as if trying to pry into their thoughts. "We've come to see Layla," Tasha said, striving to keep her voice steady despite her trembling hands. Lucille tilted her head, her smile unmoving. "Layla is resting," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "She doesn't want to be disturbed. Come back another time." Chloe felt a surge of unease. "Are you sure? We really need to see her. Layla wouldn't leave us worried like this." "She doesn't want to see anyone," Lucille said, her tone hardening. "Now go, both of you." Without giving them a chance to respond, Lucille shut the door with a sharp thud. Chloe and Tasha walked slowly out of the yard, their hearts filled with frustration and anxiety. But just as they were about to leave, Chloe froze in her tracks. "Wait," she whispered, her gaze fixed on the forest behind the mansion. "Do you hear that?" Tasha paused, tilting her head to listen. At first, there was only the rustling of the wind through the trees, but then another sound emerged. It was a whisper, faint like the breath of the wind. Initially indistinct, but the more they listened, the clearer it became. It wasn't just a natural sound. "Chloe," Tasha whispered, her voice trembling. "What do you think that is?" Chloe didn't answer immediately. She stepped closer to the forest, her heart pounding in her chest. Then they heard it more clearly. A familiar voice, Layla's voice, but it wasn't the cheerful tone they knew. It was weak, anguished as if choked by an unimaginable terror. "Help me," Chloe turned to Tasha, her eyes wide with shock and fear. "That's Layla, did you hear that?" Tasha shook her head, not in denial, but in an effort to steady herself. "It can't be. How could Layla be in the forest? You know the stories people tell about that place." "But it's her voice," Chloe insisted, desperation flickering in her eyes. "We can't just walk away, she needs us." Tasha exhaled deeply, torn between fear and loyalty. On one hand, the strange tales about the forest had haunted her since childhood. On the other, Layla was her best friend, and the thought of leaving her in danger was unthinkable. Finally, she nodded. "All right, but if anything seems off, we leave immediately, understood?" Chloe smiled faintly, as if finding a ray of hope in the darkness. "Understood." They approached the edge of the forest, where the light from Savannah's village no longer reached. The air grew heavier, and the dark trees formed a menacing curtain. Each step they took crunched on the dry leaves, the sound amplified in the eerie silence of the forest. "Layla," Chloe called softly. but there was no response. They ventured deeper and the whispers grew louder, clearer this time. "Help me!" "There!" Chloe pointed in a direction. The two hurried forward, hearts full of hope that they would find Layla, but as they passed a row of towering trees, they froze at the sight before them. In the middle of a clearing, a massive creature slithered across the forest floor. It was a serpent, larger than anything they had ever seen. Its glossy scales shimmered, reflecting faint glimmers of light. But the most terrifying feature was its eyes, glowing red, burning like embers in the darkness. Tasha swallowed hard, her voice shaking. "We need to leave, Chloe. This isn't a place for humans." But before they could retreat, the creature spoke. "Chloe, Tasha." It wasn't just any voice. It was Layla's voice. Both of them stood, frozen, unable to believe their ears. Chloe shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "No, it can't be. It's me." The voice came again, filled with pain and despair. "It's me, Layla." The creature raised its head, looking directly at them. In that moment, Chloe and Tasha realized the horrifying truth. Layla, their dear friend, had been transformed into a being they couldn't even name. "You have to help me." Layla, now a giant serpent, pleaded. "Please, don't leave me here. I can't take it anymore." Both Chloe and Tasha stood still, their minds reeling between terror and compassion. Layla was no longer human, but her voice was still that of the friend they cherished. Chloe grabbed Tasha's hand, her tear-filled eyes brimming with determination. "We're not leaving without you." Despite the fear gripping their hearts, they knew they had to do everything in their power to save Layla. But how could they confront Lucille's dark magic? How could they bring their friend back to humanity? The answers lay deep in the shadows of the forest, where dark secrets waited to be uncovered. Unable to ignore the desperate call, Chloe and Tasha decided to defy everything to uncover the truth. The rumors about the forest behind Elijah's mansion had long sent chills down anyone's spine. But for the two friends, their love for Layla outweighed their fear. "Are you sure about this, Chloe?" Tasha asked, her voice trembling as they walked past towering ancient trees that seemed to lean in, hiding dark secrets. Chloe nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "Layla needs us. Whatever's happening, we can't leave her alone." They ventured deeper into the forest, the sunlight fading away, replaced by a thick darkness. Only the sound of the wind through the treetops and their footsteps crunching on dry leaves accompanied them. The air grew colder, as if the forest itself rejected their presence. After what felt like an eternity, Chloe stopped, her hand gripping Tasha's tightly. "Look," she whispered, pointing ahead. In a small clearing, an unbelievable sight lay before them. 6 enormous snakes, each distinct in appearance and colour, lay coiled in a circle, their glowing eyes reflecting the moonlight. In their centre stood a familiar figure, Layla. But she was no longer the Layla they once knew. The lower half of her body was now a sleek, powerful serpent's tail. "What?" Tasha gasped, her eyes wide with horror. Before they could turn and run, one of the snakes lifted its head high, its blood-red eyes locking onto them. "Chloe! Tasha!" It was Layla's voice. Chloe and Tasha froze, unable to believe their ears. Layla slithered toward them, tears glistening in her eyes. "It's me," she said, her voice trembling but earnest. "I know it's hard to believe, but you need to listen to me." "Layla," Chloe whispered, tears streaming down her face. "What happened to you?" Layla took a deep breath, her gaze moving between her friends. "Lucille, she's not human. She's a witch, and I'm her victim." She began to recount everything, from the first day she entered the mansion to the terrifying dreams, and how Lucille transformed her into this creature. She gestured toward the other snakes. "They're like me. Every one of them was once Elijah's wife. She uses us to perform dark rituals, extending her life and increasing her power." Tasha glanced around, her eyes meeting the pained expressions of the other snakes. One with shimmering silver scales spoke, her voice deep and sorrowful. "We were once young women, full of hope, but she destroyed us. Every day, we lose more of our humanity. Soon, we'll be nothing but snakes. Another snake, with golden eyes, added, "We tried to fight back, but no one can break her curse. She controls everything from this forest to Elijah himself." "Elijah?" Chloe murmured, shock spreading across her face. "He's her pawn," Layla explained bitterly. "Elijah isn't the man I thought he was. He's just a puppet in her hands." Chloe and Tasha were speechless. The truth before them was beyond imagination. But looking into Layla's sorrowful eyes, they knew they couldn't turn away. "You have to help me," Layla pleaded. "Not just me, but all of us. If you don't, we'll be trapped here forever." Tasha shook her head, fear evident in her eyes. "Layla, we want to help, but we don't know what to do. We're just ordinary girls. How can we fight a witch?" "There's a way," another snake said, her voice tinged with fragile hope. "In Savannah, there's someone who knows about ancient magic. Baba Remi, a spiritual elder who once stood against Lucille years ago. If you can find him, he might help." Chloe turned to Tasha, her eyes filled with emotion. "We can't leave Layla here. No matter how dangerous, we have to try." Tasha bit her lip, her heart torn between fear and compassion. Finally, she nodded. "All right, we'll do it. But Layla, you have to promise not to give up. We'll come back." Layla nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I trust you." As Chloe and Tasha left the forest, their hearts pounded in their chests. Every step brought them closer to a mission they had never imagined undertaking. "Chloe," Tasha whispered as they reached the edge of the forest, "do you think Baba Remi can really help us?" "We have to believe he can," Chloe replied, her eyes shining with determination. "For Layla, for all those women, we can't fail." Their journey had only just begun, and Lucille's dark secrets awaited them. But Chloe and Tasha knew they couldn't give up, for Layla and the others were counting on them. Chloe and Tasha had no time to waste. After leaving the forest and uncovering the horrifying secrets of Lucille, they resolved that the only way to save Layla and the other women was to seek out Baba Roomi, a powerful spiritual elder living in the distant village of OK. Tasha cast a worried glance at Chloe as they packed their belongings. "Are you sure about this? The village of OK is miles away. And even if we find Baba Roomi, how do we know he'll help us?" Chloe took a deep breath, her eyes resolute. "Tasha, Layla needs us. If we don't do something, she'll be trapped in that form forever. We have to believe there's a way." They began their journey at dawn, as the first rays of sunlight illuminated the savannah fields. The road to OK was not only long but fraught with danger, crossing desolate lands and dense forests. Along the way, Chloe and Tasha couldn't shake their unease about what lay ahead. Tasha occasionally glanced over her shoulder, as if fearing Lucille's shadow might follow them. "What kind of person do you think Baba Roomi is?" Tasha asked, trying to break the heavy silence. Chloe shrugged. "I don't know, but if he can truly stand against Lucille, he must be incredibly powerful." As the sun set, they finally arrived in OK. The village nestled quietly among green hills, appearing peaceful but carrying an unnerving stillness. They were led to a small wooden hut on the village outskirts. Inside, Baba Roomi sat meditating, an older man with deep, piercing eyes and silver hair. The room was filled with strange objects, carved wooden boxes and ancient symbols etched into stones. Chloe and Tasha bowed in greeting, but before they could speak, Baba Roomi's voice cut through the silence, deep and commanding. "Two girls from Savannah. I know why you've come." The two exchanged stunned glances. "You know?" Tasha asked. Baba Roomi nodded. "I have sensed the disturbance in the energy from that area. Lucille has been wielding dark magic for years. But tell me everything. I need to know exactly what has happened." Chloe and Tasha recounted the entire story, from Layla's wedding to Elijah to finding her in the forest, transformed into a half-serpent creature. They described the cursed wives, the forest, and Lucille's malevolent magic that fed her power. Baba Roomi listened intently, his eyes filled with thought. Finally, he sighed. "Lucille, or you, is one of the most powerful witches I've ever known. She doesn't just use magic to extend her life. She draws life force from her son's brides to amplify her strength. She has sacrificed every shred of humanity to achieve immortality. Is there a way to stop her? Chloe asked, her voice trembling. Baba Roomi met their gaze, his expression grave. There is, but it won't be easy. He explained that breaking Lucille's curse required a 7-day reversal ritual. The ritual would demand intense focus and the presence of all the cursed wives at his temple. Those wives must be brought here, he said, his voice firm. They are the key to the ritual. Without them, we can do nothing. Chloe and Tasha were stunned. The thought of transporting those enormous creatures from the savannah forest to OK filled them with dread. But how can we do that? Tasha asked. Those wives, they're giant snakes. And Lucille won't let us do this. That's true, Baba Roomi agreed. Lucille will do everything in her power to stop you. But if you don't act, those wives will remain trapped forever. And Lucille will continue to destroy more innocent lives. Baba Roomi handed them an amulet inscribed with ancient symbols. Wear this. It will offer some protection against Lucille's magic. But remember, her power is vast. You must be extremely careful. Chloe and Tasha exchanged a determined look, feeling the weight of their mission. We'll do it, Chloe said firmly. Thank you, Tasha added, her voice filled with gratitude but tinged with fear. Baba Roomi nodded, his eyes glinting with encouragement. Go back and bring those wives here. I will prepare everything. But remember, this is not just your battle. This is a war between light and darkness. Be strong. As they left OK, Chloe and Tasha knew the journey ahead would be perilous. They would have to face Lucille, a powerful and ruthless witch, to bring Layla and the other wives to safety. But in their hearts, a glimmer of hope flickered. They knew that no matter how treacherous the road, love and determination would be their strongest weapons against the darkness. The mission to rescue Layla and the cursed women had begun. Would Chloe and Tasha succeed, or would they become Lucille's next victims? The answers waited in the shadows. Chloe and Tasha, driven by unshakable determination, quietly returned to the village of Savannah. They knew that to carry out the plan to rescue Layla and the cursed brides, they needed help from the strongest men in the village. They approached each man individually, explaining the situation without revealing too much. This isn't just about saving Layla, Chloe said, her eyes burning with conviction. It's about stopping an evil force that threatens us all. After much persuasion, they gathered over 10 brave and able-bodied men. Each man came equipped with tools such as ropes, large nets, and makeshift weapons, ready for a mission they knew would be perilous. Before the group set out, Chloe issued a stern warning. We can't let Lucille know about this plan. If she finds out, it will all be over before we even start. The group ventured into the forest at dawn. A chilling, oppressive atmosphere enveloped them, as if the forest itself was holding its breath, watching their every move. The rustling of leaves and the distant calls of birds echoed through the air, adding to the unsettling silence. When they arrived, the snakes, the cursed brides, were coiled in the clearing. Layla, in her half-human, half-serpent form, lifted her head at the sight of Chloe and Tasha. You came back, Layla said, her voice filled with relief and hope. We promised we'd save you, Tasha replied, her eyes brimming with determination. Trust us. But their plan didn't remain undetected for long. From the shadows of the forest, a cold, piercing voice rang out. Do you think you can take what is mine? Everyone turned to see Lucille, clad in a flowing black gown that blended with the darkness. Her eyes burned with fury as she raised her hands, summoning dark forces from the earth. Misty shapes, like spectral shadows, emerged from the trees surrounding the group. A chilling laugh echoed through the air, making the atmosphere even more oppressive. You cannot stop me, Lucille bellowed, her voice filled with hatred. Chaos erupted. The brave men fought valiantly, but they were unprepared for the supernatural onslaught. The shadows lunged at them like tendrils of smoke, ensnaring and attacking them. Don't give up, Tasha screamed. "We have to get the brides to Baba Roomi's temple." Chloe held up the protective amulet Baba Roomi had given her. It glowed brightly, its light driving back some of the shadowy apparitions. But Lucille was relentless, summoning more dark entities and escalating the battle. From a distance, Layla saw the danger her friends were facing. With every ounce of strength left in her, she lunged at Lucille, using her serpent body to block and restrain the witch. "You've done enough, Lucille," Layla cried. "You can't keep hurting others." While the battle raged on, the remaining men succeeded in securing the snakes with sturdy ropes. They hurriedly dragged them through the forest, making their way to Baba Roomi's temple. As they neared the temple, a brilliant light emanated from within. Baba Roomi stood at the center, surrounded by ancient symbols and sacred light. "Bring them in, quickly!" Baba Roomi commanded, his voice resonating with authority. The group rushed to pull the snakes into the temple. As the brides entered the circle of light, the shadowy entities began to disintegrate as though burned away by the sacred energy. Lucille, realizing she was losing control, charged toward the temple in a final attempt to stop the ritual. But Baba Roomi raised his hands, creating a glowing barrier around the temple that barred her entry. "Your time is over, Lucille," Baba Roomi declared, his voice thunderous. Lucille screamed in defiance, but her power waned as the light from the ritual engulfed the forest. The dark entities she had summoned dissolved into nothingness, leaving her alone to face her defeat. "You will never win," Lucille hissed, her fiery eyes filled with hatred. As the temple's light grew brighter, the snakes began to transform. One by one, they regained their human forms. Layla, her eyes brimming with tears, looked down at her hands, now human again. "Chloe, Tasha," she whispered, her voice choked with gratitude. Chloe and Tasha ran to her, tears streaming down their faces as they embraced her tightly. "We did it," Tasha said, her voice thick with emotion. Baba Roomi approached, placing a hand on their shoulders. "You've done well, but this is only the beginning. The wounds left by darkness will take time to heal." As they exited the temple, the forest returned to silence, but it was a silence filled with watchfulness, not peace. Though Lucille had been defeated, the darkness she had sown still lingered, waiting for its chance to return. "We must remain vigilant," Baba Roomi warned. "The light triumphed today, but darkness never truly disappears." With those words, the group departed, carrying both hope and lingering fear. Layla, Chloe, and Tasha knew the battle had forever changed them, but they also knew that as long as the light endured, darkness could never fully prevail. After 7 tense days and nights, the ritual in Baba Roomi's temple finally reached its conclusion. Sacred light filled the forest, dispelling the last remnants of darkness. Layla, along with the 6 other cursed brides, lay motionless within the ritual circle. As the light began to fade one by one, their forms shifted from serpents back to human bodies. First their hands, then their faces, and finally their entire beings were restored to their original state. Layla looked down at her hands, disbelief washing over her. Her warm, soft human hands had replaced the cold, scaly skin of before. Tears streamed down her face, a mixture of relief and the sorrow of everything she had endured. The other brides, equally overwhelmed, embraced one another, their tears falling freely. They didn't need words. Their eyes spoke of shared relief, gratitude, and an unyielding will to move forward. Baba Roomi stood nearby, the light of the ritual illuminating his aged face. He regarded the women with solemnity and spoke in a resonant, commanding tone. "You have returned, but the darkness has not been vanquished entirely. Lucille still lives, and she will not easily relinquish her power." Layla tightened her grip on Chloe and Tasha's hands, her eyes blazing with determination. "We can't let her continue to harm anyone else. It's time to confront her." Baba Roomi nodded slowly. "If that is your decision, let the light guide your actions. But remember, hatred only perpetuates the cycle of darkness. Let justice, not vengeance, speak for you." With the village council's support, Layla and the other brides decided to expose the truth. They gathered in the Savannah village square, where the villagers assembled to hear the horrifying tale they had never imagined. Standing at the center of the crowd, Layla spoke with a voice that carried strength and clarity. I and these 6 women were cursed by Lucille, turned into snakes so she could drain our life force to extend her lifespan and fuel her dark powers. The villagers murmured among themselves. Some were skeptical, but others recalled strange rumors and unexplained disappearances in the past. Chloe stepped forward, her voice filled with righteous anger. She hasn't just harmed us. She's endangered this entire village, making us live in fear without even knowing it. Lucille, her icy gaze unyielding, emerged from her mansion. She tried to maintain her composure, but it was clear the situation was slipping beyond her control. "You fools dare believe such slander?" she hissed, her voice dripping with contempt. But Baba Roomi appeared, holding aloft his sacred amulet. Light burst forth from it, shining directly onto Lucille. She screamed, trying to resist, but the truth could no longer remain hidden. From the shadows of Lucille's body, visions of her dark rituals materialized for all to see. The villagers watched as scenes of her summoning specters, cursing the brides, and stealing their life force played out before them. "Enough, Lucille," the village elder declared, his voice filled with authority. "You have caused too much pain. It's time for you to face the consequences." The village council decreed that Lucille would be dealt with according to ancient traditions. She was brought to the village square where the entire community united in condemnation. "You will be severed from everything you once controlled," the elder pronounced. "Your existence is a danger and you will never have the chance to harm anyone again." Despite her desperate pleas, Lucille could not escape the villagers' judgment. She was exiled, stripped of her powers, and abandoned in the cursed forest, where she would face the very dark entities she had once commanded. Elijah, Lucille's son, did not escape punishment either. Layla, her heart heavy with pain, spoke her final words about the man who had once been her husband. Elijah didn't just stay silent about his mother's actions, he was complicit, and his inaction caused our suffering. The council agreed. Elijah was also exiled to the cursed forest alongside his mother. No one heard from him again after that day. With the ordeal over, light returned to Savannah Village. The community welcomed Layla and the other brides back with open arms. Layla, Chloe, and Tasha walked forward together, carrying the lessons of their suffering. They were no longer mere victims. They were survivors, warriors who had faced and overcome darkness. Though the wounds of their souls would take time to heal, they knew they had rewritten their fates and the fate of their village forever. Layla and the 6 other brides were welcomed back to Savannah with open arms and tears of joy. The villagers, who once thought they would never see these women again, crowded the village square, greeting them as heroes. Tearful eyes, warm embraces, and blessings from the villagers gave Layla a feeling she had forgotten, a sense of belonging. Layla's journey was not just a perilous rescue mission. It was a testament to the power of true friendship, as Chloe and Tasha, despite their differences and past conflicts, had risked everything to save her. "We lost you once," Tasha said, tears streaming down her face as she hugged Layla tightly. "We couldn't bear to lose you again." Layla held Chloe and Tasha's hands, feeling the warmth and boundless love radiating from them. In her heart, she knew that their friendship had not only helped her survive, but had also brought her back to herself. It was a powerful lesson. In the darkest moments, when it feels like there's no one left, true friendship is the torch that lights the way back to the light. Layla's story also served as a reminder of the power of faith and hope. Despite enduring what seemed like insurmountable pain, she never gave up. She believed that the light would return, and it was that belief that helped her find a way out. Layla's faith wasn't just in herself, but also in her friends. Even when she was transformed into a being that no longer felt human, her hope and trust in Chloe and Tasha kept her fighting. Sometimes you have to trust others to help you find yourself, Layla shared as she recounted her story to the village. It was an important reminder. No matter how strong we are, sometimes the true source of our strength lies in those around us. The unity of the village also played a crucial role in the victory over Lucille. When the villagers stood together, their collective light overcame the darkness that Lucille had brought. The village council, traditionally neutral and detached, decided to act after witnessing Layla and the other brides expose the truth. This solidarity not only defeated the dark force, but also healed fractures within the community, restoring a renewed sense of trust among everyone. "We are stronger when we stand together," the council leader said. "No one can conquer darkness alone, but united, we can achieve the impossible." Although Layla had returned to her human form, she knew her journey wasn't over. The scars on her soul remained, and the shadow of Lucille left behind a profound lesson she would never forget. But Layla wasn't alone. With Chloe and Tasha by her side, she knew she would find her path forward. She decided to dedicate her life to sharing her story, reminding others of the power of friendship, courage, and unity. "We can't change what happened," Layla said as she stood before the village, "but we can choose how to move forward. I choose to live with gratitude and love for all those who saved me." Layla, Chloe, and Tasha's story wasn't just about magic, darkness, and curses. It was about bravery, friendship, and sacrifice. Dear audience, we hope this story has inspired you to remember that no matter how difficult life gets, there is always light waiting ahead. Leave your thoughts in the comments. What touched you the most about Layla's story? What would you do if you were in her place? Don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss more thrilling, heartfelt, and meaningful stories to come. Share this video with your friends and family in the US to spread the message of the power of friendship and unity. Together, we can learn from stories like this one to become better friends and companions in life. Thank you for joining us. See you in the next story.